happened this weekend, very sad, actually. You know, we have to get our affairs in order in a practical fashion, especially the African descendants here in America. Keep those over here.
Can we keep them? Okay.
Yeah, just in case somebody might need them to do something. I like to put my books on some of these things as well. You know, because we have families who are non-Muslim, who are not sensitive at all towards, you know, your decision to be Muslim. And again, if you have not done the practical things, the realistic things to declare yourself as a Muslim, when we pass away, and we all will pass away, then the Muslims cannot do anything for you without the permission of your family. And so this weekend, early in Greensboro, a young man, 36 years old, he was murdered, Muslim. Now again, half of that is our problem, because it's like having any other nations, places, right? And people that you're supposed to be, you know, African descendant and male should know that after dark he's being pursued. He's a target, you know, either for the police or the criminals and these types of things. But he's suspect, you know, half the time, and at nighttime most of the time, you know. Am I crazy for saying that?
No.
So if this is a reality, we should try to stay away from those things. But he was murdered in his own neighborhood, going home at nighttime, and his mother decided, well, I don't want to. First, it was okay. We're going to bury him the Muslim way, because we know he prayed every day, and his mother was saying that. But then when it was like, okay, we're going to do this in 3 days, by the third day, and my peoples have been here, and we got to come, and we want to cry over him, and we got to do our thing. They took it back, okay, and they buried him like a Catholic. And we said, listen, we will come to your own place, and we will wash the body. If you don't want to hand him, because I was about to go pick him up. And he said, no, we can't do it because, my peoples haven't gotten in town yet. Okay? And, there's no, sometimes our people, we know our people, when it's in this sensitive moment, they act very ignorant. There's no time to have a conversation. It's my way, or we start cursing at you. Okay? And then once, we said, okay, well, we're not going to pay for it if you do it in someplace else, then we get called other types of names, and that's the brother's fault. The deceased person, that's his fault. He carries the sin for that, because he did not set himself up to be buried properly. He didn't put the things in the responsible hands for it to be taken care of. And all other types of things, his family didn't know, his bank account, how to get into there, and different things that we should know about each other. We're so scared somebody's going to steal from us. Yeah, we're really scared. We have a lot of trust issues, and these things impact negatively on our lives. We got to find somebody that we can trust. And this is because the family has been so destroyed and decimated that there's no family trust. Okay? So we have to do something about that amongst ourselves. So that was my weekend. I spent the whole weekend, not the whole weekend, but up until Saturday trying to convince them to just let us go ahead, or just, okay, we'll come to your place at the wake and we'll, pray over the brother. And, didn't go well. So alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, that's a lesson in reality. I'm handing back your papers now, Muhammad Nubi. Well, in fact, why don't you hand out the papers, Muhammad Nubi?
I can't see enough.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hand out all the papers. Just call out the people and hand them out. Right. Now I'm going to put a poem on the book. Do you guys remember what we did? We went back. Let me rewind. Okay, I rewinded. Now, we started this class. What were we teaching? What were we learning?
Tafseer 101.
I want full sentences.
We were learning Tafseer 101.
Okay. We were learning Tafseer 101. After Ramadan, I went backwards, right? I went backwards because it's not fair to me or you for us to just jump into a science. No one does that. Whenever you get a job, wherever you go, you always go through the HR, right? You go through some type of, what does it call it when you get to the job? Orientation. There it is. You go through some orientation period so you can figure out how to operate here. Even in college, there's some type of period like that. Okay? So here, as a talibul ilm, there are these particular fundamentals that we need to know. And so that's why we started to go over those things first. So the other test that I gave you guys earlier with regards to the Tafsir 101, I still have that. But it doesn't behoove me to give that to you because we're not going over that yet. Does that make sense? We are going over these other fundamentals so that we can continue to walk forward. We have everything that we need in order to continue to move forward. Nothing will slow us down. In that regard, I threw down an outline for you guys. Anybody remember? Everything you're supposed to have in your mind. Ours is an oral tradition, right? So in that outline, the first thing we had was the mentalities we're supposed to have. What's the first thing? The first thing is, well, not the first, what is the first thing? I said those things that prevented us from learning knowledge. What is that? Somebody tell me. What was the thing that kept us from, excuse me?
For not learning the usul.
No, that's the wrong answer. Give me an answer.
The only thing that prevented them from becoming proficient in beneficial knowledge was that they abandoned learning and applying the usul.
The usul, okay? The fundamental principles, okay? That's what I want you all to remember. The only thing that prevented us from becoming proficient in
beneficial knowledge
was
that they abandoned learning and applying the usul.
Learning and applying the usul. That was the first thing that we remembered. The second thing I said, what is the key to beneficial knowledge? Yes, sir, Mr. Yunus. Come on, guys. Let them give it a try. Good. No, I don't, guys, I don't know where you went to school. Well, I do know where you went to school because I've been reading your biography. Biographies, and very, very impressive, mashallah. I want a full sentence. It is not acceptable in an official capacity to give partial sentences in this regard, okay? And that's part of our problem. We're getting too laid back. Give me a full sentence, sir.
Arabic, English?
Sorry?
English?
You're still giving me a partial sentence.
I am.
Give me a full sentence, sir. Thank you. Miftahul ilm khashiyatullah. What does that mean? Anybody? Excuse me, say it again, please.
The answer is, key to gaining knowledge is having a true, legitimate fear of Allah.
Right, having, and I would say also developing, okay? Because you want to, in order to get that, you have to develop this true, legitimate fear of Allah. How do we get that true, legitimate fear of Allah? Anybody? What practical thing can we do? Ibn Wali.
Studying the
I want a full sentence, sir.
sense.
Oh, you was testing me. That's a businessman, right? Quick, I was testing. Go ahead.
Studying the Tawheed of Allah. Studying the
Tawheed of Allah. Now, I have a problem with us using words that I am not clear that we know what they mean. Because we have taken words, Islamic terms, and used them like a fad. Okay? Replaced Nike with Tawheed. I'm just saying it's words. What does getting a Tawheed of Allah mean?
Worship of Allah.
Give me a full sentence there.
Worship of Allah and His Lordship and His name and His attributes.
That's still not a full sentence. What is Tawheed?
Tawheed is knowing Allah, worshiping Him, knowing how He lords over His creation.
I didn't hear the last part, that's all.
Knowing how He lords over His creation.
How He lords over His creation. Yes, I would say that is Tawheed. That Tawheed is a concept where it's a number of ways. One of them is to isolate Allah and single Allah out And then also how Allah has Tawheed himself, how he is unique in his own ways. Now, that doesn't answer my question, though, how we develop a true, legitimate fear of Allah. Because he gave me something how to study, but where do I study that? Where would be the first place I begin to do that? I want a full sentence, Queen of Zinga.
Develop a full legitimate feeling for Allah by
Fear of Allah
the Quran.
by reading the Quran. Yes. That is the answer. So the key is to develop and to have a true legitimate meaning realistic, fear of Allah. And that can only be done as if you know who Allah is, right? That can only be done if you understand Allah as he has described himself. The first place and the consistent place where we can find that very easily is in the Quran. How many pages are there in the Quran, in the normative Mus'haf?
600.
How many pages are in the normative green Mus'haf?
6,000.
Give me a full sentence, ladies. There are.
More than 600 pages.
You cheated. What's that, ma'am? No. How many pages? There are 604 pages in the standard Mus'haf. There are 600. Don't write it down. I do not want you to write it down. I want you to remember it. Okay? Some things, if you write down, you'll forget. We're going to say that so many times you will remember. We're running tracks to our memory. Yes, sir.
Is the term fear of Allah taqwa or khashya?
Khashyatullah. Khashya is the fear of Allah, the legitimate fear. Khawf is fear, but khashya is a different type of fear. Khawf could be the fear someone has of the dark, or fear of a mouse. But khashya is a legitimate fear of a lion. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so there are 604 pages in the Mus'haf, the normative Mus'haf. On every page, you won't find one page except there is a description of Allah. On every page, that's over 604 descriptions of Allah. No ummah has more descriptions of their Lord than the Muslims. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so reading the Quran is one of the best, easiest ways that you can learn about Allah. That you can increase your fear and open use that key. So, the other thing we mentioned, how many types of knowledge are there?
The two types.
There are two types of knowledge.
There are two types of knowledge. There are 6 levels, okay, to get to complete knowledge. What are the 2 types of knowledge? I want a full sentence. Say it again, ma'am.
There's acknowledgement and guidance.
Acknowledgement and guidance? I don't understand what you mean. Can you give me more?
Or seeking guidance from Allah. Acknowledging Allah.
No, that's incorrect.
The two types of knowledge are objective and
Okay, so there are 2 types. One is the objective, right? The goal, right? And the other one, we call it the tools. To expand upon that, what we mean by tools, this is the prerequisite, the skill sets we need to work in the field of the objective. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So these skills, these tools are the skill set, the prerequisites that we need. Now, how are we going to use them? We're going to use them in Tafseer. As Tafseer is the objective of what we've studied, everything, so that we can move around and read the Quran. What is Tafseer? To understand what Allah intended with the Quran. Okay? We read what he said, we understand it linguistically. We read what he said, and with our skills, our skills and our prerequisites, we understand it through the language of the Arabic language. Does that make sense? Yeah. Through our skills of reading the seerah, the history of the Prophet ﷺ, we understand the context. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, through our skills of reading the Quran, we compare it with other ayat that are explaining the similar or using the same word in a different context so that we can understand that language. Does everybody follow me?
Yes.
Okay. Through listening to what the Prophet ﷺ said, we understand how it was meant to be applied, exemplified. Hearing what the Sahaba, how they understood, then we find out how we should apply it, and we're given limits that we can operate within. That's how we take those tools and we apply them in the science of Tafseer. Come from around the wall right there. Come on over here. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is our objective with learning all this knowledge? Now, there's two things. I've said the objective twice. I'm not talking about maqasid al-sharia. I'm talking about the objective of knowledge. What are we trying to get at? Yes, sir.
The objective of knowledge is to remove ignorance from myself and the people around me.
That's the intention with knowledge. Okay, to correct him, the intention with studying. Okay? The intention of studying is to
remove ignorance from myself and those around us.
To remove ignorance from myself and those around me. That's what the intention of studying. We haven't gotten there yet. What I'm asking about, what is our final objective? Yes, ma'am.
The objective of knowledge is to know and do what Allah has commanded us to do in every situation we face.
Okay. So it's not to be able. Make note, it's not to be able. It's to know it. Right? You already have it. Okay? And to do is, that's why I said it's not to be able to do, but you're doing it. That is the simplicity yet the difficulty. Because that is literally momentous. Every moment you are in an opportunity, or we call a threshold moment, to actually do it or not do it. Whether you do it, that takes the bravery to apply in those cases where it may be something that is fearful, right? To be proactive. Because sometimes we know and we don't apply. And that reverts us back to Suratul. Tell me. Sorry? No. No, you guys are guessing. Don't guess. Al-Fatiha. See, sometimes when we read Al-Fatiha, we always, this is the problem when people, blanket taqleed, tafsir. When Allah says, غَيْرُ مَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, we say what? In tafsir, what do we say? We say Yahud. This is wrong. Yahud is only an example of the description. Why do we say the Yahud? Remember, we go beyond Tafsir to Tadabbur. Why do we say Yahud? Yes, sir.
40 years. Because they were given the guidance.
Are you giving me a half sentence? Because does not start a sentence. Why do we say the Yahud or Maghdubi alayhim?
We say the Yahud because Musa was given the prophethood and they were under his leadership. And that's what they asked for guidance, and when they received the guidance, they did not follow the guidance.
That's halfway correct. Okay, somebody else want to help him out? Yes, ma'am.
The Yahudi did not follow the guidance and were given the punishment of wandering 40 years.
That's still only half of the answer. There's another answer. Go back to what we said the objective of knowledge was. The objective of knowledge is to what?
Know it.
The objective knowledge is to know it and do it, but they never did it and they knew it.
Right. This is the answer right here. Yunus said it. They knew it. It wasn't like they did not have knowledge. That's why the objective of knowledge is what? To know and do what Allah told you to do in every situation. They knew, but they sami'na wa asayna. Come on. It's about to jump on him. We hear, meaning we understood, and we refuse. We resist. Okay. Why? See, that's why I said we're going to tadabbur. Ayatul Quran in Surah Al-Fatiha. We say Al-Fatiha is not only just the introduction, the opening, it is also the goal. Not to be like those people who knew and still refused and resisted. And we keep saying, and it's harmful to us, that we push it on the Jews. No. Anyone who fits the description, including us, most importantly us, because the message is to who? Us. Does that make sense? Yeah. But if we project and put it on someone else, we never accept it as a reality for ourselves, and it makes it more difficult for us to apply it. Does that make sense? Because we're not looking for it anymore. So the objective of knowledge is for us to study enough until we know and it has become part and parcel of what we do. We're not hesitating, we're not resisting, we're not refusing to do it. Natawakkal ala Allah, we trust in Allah. We seek His help. We follow the example. And then we let it happen how it's going to happen. As Siraj Wahad, you say, victory or paradise. We never lose. We never lose. We either get it done and get the victory in this dunya, or we become shuhada and we win anyway. There's a famous story about a Sahaba. They snuck, the kuffar wanted him. They found him and they stabbed him in the back. They took a spear and stabbed him. And when he got stabbed in the back, he said, I won. The kafir that stabbed him back said, he stole all my motivation. I wanted to get what I was thinking I was going to feel good when I stabbed him, and he started rising up to the sky. They couldn't even desecrate his body because he said, I won. Understand it. Sometimes some of the ulama talk about the Philistine people, say, because when one of their people get martyred, they throw a party. They don't have the sad thing. They throw a straight party. That is understanding that their person won. When we can get to that particular point. Does that make sense? Okay, so those are just a little bit of a review of those things. Then we went to the next thing. The next thing was yes, sir.
So Al-Fatiha again is the goal. Right?
Al-Fatiha is so comprehensive. It is the dua that we make in order to get started. It is the reference point. The Amathari wa Quran al-Kareem. The whole Quran is tafseer for Surah Al-Fatiha. The 7 oft-repeated themes are in Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? We're constantly told, showing how important Surah Al-Fatiha is, you can't offer Salah without it. That's how much Allah is telling us to focus on that one surah. Right? So, yes, Al-Fatiha is, the tool, and as well, it is the goal to perfect that, to get to that. Okay? And one of them is not to be maghdubi alayhim. Okay, everybody? Now, the second thing that we covered was the first chapter. The last thing that we didn't cover just now, I said time. We spoke about how important time was, right?
Yes.
What do we say about time? Quickly. Everybody, you can call out now.
Time is the most important commodity.
Most important commodity. What else?
Good health.
Good health, right? Free time and good health. What are the 5 things Allah's Messenger told us to take advantage of?
Take advantage of time.
5 before 5. What are the 5? Give me one. Youth. Wealth. Health.
Free time.
Free time. Okay. And these are things that we should constantly keep what we call nusb al-ain. Okay, right in front of our eyes. Because Allah's Messenger is telling us how precious this is, so we have to take advantage of our time. Okay? Time management. Very important. Okay? Some of the things that we can do, if we follow the Sunnah, it will only benefit you. One of the things from the Sunnah that really benefits that we don't take advantage of is taking a nap. Taking a nap in the daytime hours. This helps tremendously with time management. If we would never allow ourselves to let the sun get up before us, then we can take full advantage of the whole day. Okay? From the way the sun is, you're not getting ready when the sun rises, you're ready. Because you got up, you ate, you got dressed, you're ready, and now you're taking your work in and taking advantage of that day. You'll be tired when it comes time for Maghrib time. And then if you make, we are so busy we don't even get ready for bed. Okay, we just pass out. Okay? But there should be a program of how you prepare yourself for rest. A lot of us complain of restlessness and insomnia because we don't get ready for bed. We don't do those particular things. Putting the different oils on that make, what do we put for the baby when the baby went to sleep? That particular smell? Lavender, right? Ladies automatically knew it. Now, I don't know what it is, but that helps grown folk too, right? And they even have a tea for it, right? Drinking coffee at 8 o'clock ain't gonna help you go to sleep. So, these types of things when we prepare, we can get more out of our rest time and get more out of our daytime and take advantage of our time. So we have to think about that because the Prophet ﷺ told us these are things that people don't take advantage of. So in this, we can look at the secular knowledge that we have about time and daytime and use everything we have in order to take advantage of this commodity that Allah is telling us, Allah's Messenger ﷺ is telling us is so precious. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, having that done, the next thing that you're supposed to know are the maqasid of the Sharia. This is our first usul. Everything we cover right now are just the mentalities. Now we come to our first tool, which is the usul of maqasid the Sharia. Recite it to me. What are the maqasid of the Sharia? Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim.
Islam has come to preserve and protect, prioritize and always respect my deen, my mind, my wealth, my honor, my lineage, myself.
Alhamdulillah. Do it again.
Islam has come to preserve and protect, prioritize and always respect my deen, my mind, my wealth, my honor, my lineage, myself.
Okay, now remember, these words, my deen, my mind, my wealth, my honor, my lineage, myself, these terms we've taken from the Arabic terms, right? And they're not just one. These words should be understood in their comprehensive nature. For example, when we say honor, we also mean dignity, right? When we say lineage, we also mean ancestry, okay? When we talk about wealth, we're not talking just about money, okay? Does that make sense? We have to understand all the different ways of, when we talk about myself, we're also talking about my health. We're talking about, killing myself. We're talking about also eating myself to death and taking care of myself. All these things are objectives of the Sharia, and we are like shepherds, okay? For all these things for ourselves and those who we have some type of control over. The next usul, and now you can take out your pens and we can start writing. The next usul are what we call, I gave it to you, I made you memorize them, and I said these are the primary
principles.
The primary what? The primary principles of fiqh, okay? Now I'm not going to, qawaid al-fiqhiyya is what we call it in Arabic. But like I said, we want to understand them. The first one was what? Say again, ladies. The ladies are hardcore. The guys are like, go ahead.
Legal rulings are determined by the intentions of the act.
Okay, so now, as you guys put it in English, in Arabic, it's exactly said, al-umuru bi-maqasidiha. This fundamental, this principle, comes from the most famous hadith that most people know. Innama al-a'malu bin-niyat or bin-niyya. Both of those are in two different narrations. It's one of the first hadith we learn how to memorize. It's on the authority of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar bin Khattab, radiyallahu anhu. And he said, he heard from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Innama al-a'malu bin-niyat. Deeds are but by their intentions. And so from that hadith, we get the principle of intentions decide the rulings of an act. That's how it goes. Let's go here. Intentions will decide. Intentions. Okay? Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Please recite it.
Intentions will decide the rulings of an act.
This is the first principle. We will be using this principle over. They say this principle, some scholars say it's in all acts. Every act of fiqh, every issue of fiqh. Okay? Others say 70. But the Arabs, when they say 70, they're just saying a large number. Okay? That's what that means. It doesn't necessarily mean 70. Now, I'm going to give you something else here. الدين مبني على المصالح في جلبه ودرء للقبائح. This is not a principle that we're going to say, okay, this, that, and the other thing. This, we use it for that. But this is the fundamental principle of all these principles. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It would be the usul, the pit that you put your foundation in. And that is the whole deen. The only reason Allah made this whole deen is to benefit you. Okay? That's what the whole deen is designed to do. And to protect you from harm. Now, if you don't believe that, then you don't believe Allah has your good intentions, your good auspices in mind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sorry? الدين مبني على المصالح في جلبه ودرء للقبائح. This is a rhyme in Arabic that Shaykh Sa'di, a famous Shaykh of Usul, he put it in a rhyme in Arabic for his people. I put it in a rhyme in English for my people, okay? So every science in Islam has been put in rhyme because it's easier to memorize in that way. Now, from that, we get the point that everything halal is to benefit you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The word halal or halala, halun, is to unravel something. Let's say you have a knot. To unravel it, tahilluhu. Yeah, you break it apart. You not break it, but you take it apart. Unravel. You want a solution, it's called a hillu. You get my hill. I want looking for a solution. What's the connection between halal and solution? There are things we have in life. Everything. Let's say a man likes a woman. He sees this woman, I like her. I want to be with her. Now, that's an issue, right? How do I solve that? Okay, so that's halal. I go about it. The hil for that is to find her people. They talk to my people. Then we get to, they arrange, and then we're hitting the duff. Okay? We're getting the marriage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a haram way to do it too.
You hit the dust.
Hitting the duff, throwing a party, brother. I'm saying, that after all the people talking to our people.
Not a bongo drum.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the bongo. Hey. Okay. The point is we're celebrating because the families came together and they came to an agreement. The haram way would be either, the guy goes over there and he talks to the girl and tricks her, right? Or he gets his guys and they kidnap her. You get my point? That is haram, which causes harm. So there's a hil that is beneficial, and there's a hurma, which causes harm. You guys follow me?
Yes.
Now, Allah is the one that determines that. And that's a principle in and of itself. That the halalun unravels with a positive effect. Okay? Halalun unravels with a positive effect. Everybody, please, when you finish writing this, say it. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halalun unravels with a positive effect.
Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halalun unravels with a positive effect.
Keep reading it until the other people finish. Keep going. You don't have to do it together. Keep reciting it though.
Intentions will decide the ruling of the act.
The rulings. Because there's more than one ruling on an act, depending, there's different parts of a particular thing. Right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Halalun unravels with a positive effect.
Why do we say unravels?
take it apart.
Right, because in this form we're shown by putting a word close to another word, we're shown the meaning of that word. Okay? So it unravels the difficulties, it unravels the problem. Okay? Finds a solution for it. Halalun unravels. By doing the halal, what's going to happen? Always. And that's the principle. Okay? That the halalun unravels with a
Positive effect.
haramun is harmful.
Haramun is harmful.
Haramun
Haramun
is harmful.
is harmful.
The opposite of good.
The opposite of good.
What's the opposite of good?
Harm.
No good. You get my point? The opposite of good means it's no good whatsoever. It's on the other side of good. No good. Haramun is harmful, the opposite of good. Corruptive, destructive, it's never understood. Corruptive. Please.
Corruptive.
Destructive.
Destructive.
It's never understood.
It's never understood.
Why did he do
Destructive. It's never understood.
Intentions will decide the rulings of an act.
Intentions will decide the rulings of an act.
Halalun unravels with a positive effect.
Halalun unravels with a positive effect.
Haramun is harmful, the opposite of good.
Haramun is harmful, the opposite of good.
Corruptive, destructive, it's never understood.
Corruptive, destructive is never understood.
Now, the first principle is one, right here. This is the principle number one. Intentions will decide the rulings of an act. Okay? I'll give you an example. Zina, Mr. Taubah.
Yes.
Is it haram or halal?
It is.
Whoa, stop. Go over there and do push-ups. Get up. Go, Eunice. Go do some push-ups. You hesitated too much, man. Mr. Ben Wali, explain.
Ask the question, repeat the question.
Okay. Come on, go do some push-ups, man.
For real?
Yeah, I'm dead serious, man. You got to get that brain working, man.
Let's go.
Okay.
I threw me for a loop.
He threw you for a loop. Now, zina, is it haram or halal?
Haram.
Thank you. Haram. Come on up here, Eunice. Oh, you want to stay?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow instructions.
No, alhamdulillah. Barakallah fikum.
Speaking about it, come on.
Look, zina is haram. Right or wrong?
Right.
Clearly, it causes harm. I remember being with Sheikh Muhammad Salim, Datud al-Shinqiti, and he was one of the senior scholars in the world at that time. The UN has a list of senior scholars. I didn't know that. Okay? And they sent some people out to Mauritania to talk to him because they said he was the most senior scholar of Maliki fiqh, and they wanted him to sign a fatwa to say that, you know, the issue of darura, of necessity, okay? And because of the issue of necessity, you know, there are certain things that become halal that are haram. For example, eating pork is haram, right?
Yes.
But if someone is starving, they can eat pork. Okay.
A little bit.
Enough to survive, right? That's a principle. That's one of the principles, that the amount of haram that you have to do from a dururi is based on the amount of haram that you need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's, we're going to get to that principle as well. Don't do that, ladies. I'm going to start talking. Talk to me. Ask me.
Sometimes I don't want to interrupt you.
No. I have a diddy. Okay? So if I see someone talking during the class, that throws me for a loop.
I have a hearing problem.
Now I have a big mouth. I've been told numerous times. I'm not offended to raise it. You know, what do you need?
That word, zima, whatever it was.
Zina? Is that what you're referring to? Zina? Ultramarital sex. Ultramarital sex is zina. For the definition that we're going to go with right here. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So, if someone has to eat pork to survive, then they can do that for as long as they can and have to survive. So he said, look, based on this issue, these two guys came, two Jewish guys, okay? They both spoke French and Arabic. They tried to pretend they didn't understand Arabic at first, but we figured them out, and then they broke down, okay, yeah, we speak Arabic, okay? So, hey, they do their job, we do ours, okay? So, we were serving them and everything, and they said, well, explain to us this issue of necessity. You know, and the Shaikh explained to them about, let's say, pork. He said, right on, you know, like yeah, you did it right. Like he needed their confirmation. That's exactly why we came to you, because we knew you know this type of stuff, you know, and, you know, could you write a fatwa for us explaining that issue? He says, depends on, you know, on what angle. He says, well, it's business. You got to do business today, right? Yeah, of course. Business is an objective of the Sharia. Hifz al-mal, right? Preserving the wealth. And one of the ways to do that, the second best way to do that is through business transactions, okay? He says, right, and you can't do business without riba.
Wow.
You see how they do it? They threw it in there. So just write us a fatwa, you know, that'll be great. And we'll publish it. We'll give you thousands of dollars. We'll make you a millionaire. Okay, come give a speech in the UN and stuff. And he said, certain things never become halal by the nature of that thing. Okay? Okay? And he mentioned there's certain things that no matter what, they don't become halal. Even if a person is forced to do it, it's still haram. Whoever forced him to do it did the haram. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Point in case. In the time after the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahaba or the Tabi'een found a man and a woman having sexual intercourse. Okay? It was not rape. Now it can't be termed as rape. They caught them having sex, which is a hard criteria in Islam. Okay? The case was brought before Umar, and the woman said, I was starving. I was near death. Felt I was going to die. I asked the man for money, feed me. He said he wouldn't give me any money, but he wouldn't give me any food unless he had his way with me. Okay? So I let him have his way with me. What did Umar do? How do you judge that? Intentions will decide. Okay. Is what she did haram?
Yes.
No.
She was home.
Ad-durura. She had a necessity. She was going to die.
She felt she
Sorry?
She felt she was.
Allah knows best. It's her. Allah is the one. The hadith, she said she felt she was. Are we supposed to judge her intention? No. In the hadith, and this goes back to that hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ فمن كان هجرته لله فهجرته لله ورسوله ومن كان هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. Okay? This hadith is taught to us. There was a man who made hijrah to Medina, but he wanted to marry a woman called Qais. Okay? So the Sahaba said, can we call him a muhajir? He ain't like, we came hijrah here, running. Some of them left their families in Mecca and didn't see him for 10 years until Fath al-Mecca. Okay? Hey, we gonna call this guy a muhajir just like us. He came here to marry this lady. And the Prophet ﷺ told them that deeds are by their intention. You know, basically, mind your business. That's what it was told. People misinterpret this hadith and they say, oh, his intentions were this. No. In that hadith, the Messenger of Allah says, Allah knows what their intention was. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ. And everybody's going to get what they intended. Who's going to give it to them? Allah, not you, not me. And we've not been sent over them to judge and see what their intention was. We judge on the apparent. Okay? So he made hijrah. Hijrah is what he made hijrah, whatever he intended. And it's for them, just mind your business. Don't worry about it. Allah, nobody tricking Allah. You get my point? But we now don't even get that out of the hadith. We miss that particular angle of understanding the hadith. So if a person, and a proof of that is a man, he had a nocturnal emission. He had what we call a wet dream at nighttime. He woke up and it was cold. And he was the best in Quran, and he said, I'm not taking a ghusl, it's too cold, the water's cold. So he made tayammum. His companion said, man, make a shower. He said, nah, it's too cold. And he led them in Salah with tayammum. After they got back, because they were traveling, they told the Prophet. And the Prophet said, did you do that? He said, yes. What made you do that? Why didn't you follow your companion's advice? And he said, Allah says, don't kill yourself. And I felt if I took a shower with that cold water, I would have died. What did the Prophet do? Who knows the narration? He laughed. He laughed till you saw his teeth in the back. And he didn't say nothing. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Why? Ain't his business to judge that man's intention. You get my point? If that man felt that he was going to have a negative effect by that water, then that's between him and his Lord. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Allah may have made it easy for you to take a shower with that cold water because he put that in you. But somebody else might not be able, may not be able to. And there's a principle, obligation drops with inability. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, obligation drops with inability. With inability. Does that make sense, everybody?
So does that make, that's still haram, her having, that doesn't make what she did.
It's still, it makes what she did lawful for her haram on the one who made her do it. The Prophet ﷺ said that my was forgiven what they're forced into. Right? Whatever they've been forced to do, and they're forgiven. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The act itself is haram.
Of course. But her being forced to do it, she didn't do it willingly.
Right.
She felt she had no choice.
Under the circumstances.
Under her circumstances.
Did he get punished?
Yes, he did.
He received the hudud?
Yes.
Oh.
So
He received the hudud, but she didn't. She was fed and let go. Does that make sense, everybody? Why? What's the principle that was used?
intentions to decide the ruling of an act. Allow rebels with a positive effect.
You get my point, guys? Intentions will decide the rulings on that. We cannot look at an action and judge it. From this, we have another principle called a tafseer qabla tankir. Find out the tafseer of that act before you say that act is munkar. You get my point? Ma hamalaka ala dhalik. Why made you do that? Jibril came and told the Prophet Muhammad that there's a man who has a letter, and he sent it to the Quraysh and told them that your army is coming. It's an act of treachery, an act of a traitor, right?
Yes.
But
Intentions to decide the ruling of an act.
so the Prophet didn't send for the letter, got the letter back. It was just like when Jibril told him it was. Did he take the guy and say, okay, now I know why you did it. Jibril told me. Before he said anything, he said, Ma hamalaka ala dhalik. What made you do that? And so we have a principle from that. Before you say something, ask why it was done. Ma hamalaka. That's why we say tafseer. Qabla tankir. And munkar is from the word tankir. Okay?
Do we know why he did?
Yes. He explained why. He had, like I said, he was one of those muhajirin. He was not a rich muhajir. His family was at the back of the Meccans. And he hoped that they would, to do something for them. He was not a disbeliever. He said, I don't disbelieve. I just hope that they would, be nice so they don't do nothing bad to my family. Because it's like they got his family hostage. You get my point? And if you've been overseas, you've seen people do that to other people's family.
And he witnessed Badr.
And he witnessed Badr. He was one of the shuhada, he was one of the people that, Shahid al-Badr, fought in Badr.
What was his name?
I forget his name off the top of my head. Yes.
Question.
Yes, Hatib. No.
I have a question related to what you just made.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Of a case where a person said that when they got up in the morning, they were chilly in the house, so they rubbed their hands
That means tayammum.
And said that was sufficient. But I guess my question is, when is that okay? I mean, because we're in modern times in a house where you have warm water. I'm just...
Okay, again, one of the things we have to remember, we have to learn about Islam is that our relationship with Allah is personal. Okay? And if the Prophet, Allah tells us, nothing on you except to give the message. We can't grab people in a headlock and make them do what we would want them to do. We accept the qadr of Allah. Now, maybe doing the tayammum on a wall that has paint on it and all these things is misunderstood. We have to go into the fiqh on how to make tayammum, because that's the first issue that I listened to there. Whether the house had sufficient cooling or the time for Salah was going to run out by the time the house warmed up, and these types of things, that's another issue, because according to the fiqh of Imam Malik, time of Salah takes precedence on the wudu of the Salah. So if you have because when you're given an order, the first thing you want to know is when do you do it, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you see the Muwatta starts off with awqat Salah, the times of Salah. So let's say the time for Fajr is going to go out in the next 15 minutes. If you go to make a ghusl, you're going to miss the time for Salah. If you just make tayammum and offer Salah, you catch the Salah. According to the fiqh of Malik, you catch the Salah in the time frame. Because outside of it, that's not the time for Salah. You missed you missed the time for Salah. You missed the Salah is a time frame.
Right.
It's like a miqat. A miqat is like a place you go to, and that's the only place you get to that point. You get my point? Now, once it's passed, you're done. It's over. It's no longer called Fajr or Asr or Dhuhr or whatever that time frame is. So we have to start re-understanding this.
But you still have to make it.
Offer it. You don't make Salah. This is again the problem with us understanding the words. You do not make Salah. It's not a cake. Okay? But it is a presentation. It doesn't have to be accepted. And we've learned that some Salah is not accepted. Some Salah don't rise over the length of the person's hair. Some Salah rises up and curses its actor. Okay? So it's a presentation. And if we understood that we're offering it, we might act better during it. Because we have the example of the two sons of Adam. One presented something and the other one presented, and one was accepted and one was rejected. Who's to say your Salah has ever been accepted? Does that make sense, everybody? So if we change the language, we might go into offering the Salah with a sense of sorry? Purpose to present a presentation that you wanted to. When you present something that can be rejected and it hinges on your life after death, going to Jannah or not, then you're going to take a sense of seriousness into presenting that particular thing. Humble, purpose, all of that would be part of it. But if you think, well, I made it. See, I went through the motions. If you don't accept it, that's on you. No. No, but that's the mentality sometimes, right? No, you got to present it in a way that it would be accepted. And that's why, what's the first thing you say after Salah? Why? Why are you saying astaghfirullah? You just finished offering Salah.
For all the mistakes that you made in the Salah.
Right. For all the khalal, all the mistakes that you just did that it wasn't good enough. So you're saying astaghfirullah, this is the best I could do. I did my best, astaghfirullah, please accept that. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
We have to put purpose back into our action. That was a good word, purpose. Ameen wa iyyakum. All right? So intentions will decide.
The rulers of the act.
Halalun unravels with a positive effect.
Haram is harmful, the opposite of good, corrupted, destructive, is never understood.
So the hardships and harms have to be removed.
Hardships.
So the hardships and harms have to be removed.
have to be removed. Have to be removed.
Relieved of.
Relieved of.
Or eased up.
Or eased up.
Or some way soothed.
Or some
In
way
some way soothed.
In some way soothed.
Some way soothed. So the hardships and harms have to be removed. Say it again.
So the hardships and harms have to be removed.
Relieved of or eased up in some way soothed.
Relieved up or eased up in some way soothed.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. Relieved of or eased up in some way soothed.
Relieved up or eased up in some way soothed.
This is number 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Hardships. The word hardship, please don't write right now, just let me explain it, please. Hardships is from that principle, al-mashaqqatu tajlibu taysir. Okay? Hardship is a difficult in the essence of whatever you're doing. Okay? A hardship is in the act itself. For example, the hardship is, let's say, traveling. Traveling is a hardship. Why? You can't even use the toilet. Right? And when you have to go to it, it might be dirty. And not only that, someone might be right next door. You don't have the same privacy, the same. You get my point? Yes. You might even have gas, or even the food might not be what you paid for, and then you have to pay for it. You're out of your thing. So it has to be relieved of. You have to have some relief, some ease, or in some way soothed because of this hardship. So Islam sets up relief for every hardship. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
So if we're offering Salah and we're traveling, what can we do? Shorten it.
Pray right.
All combined and combined. Put it forward, put it back. You get my point? If it's Ramadan, do I have to pray? No. I'm sorry, do I have to fast?
No.
While traveling. Even while I'm there where I'm traveling, I don't have to fast. I can wait till I get back. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Why? Because hardships and harms
have to be removed.
Relieved of or eased up
in some way soothed.
In some way soothed. Okay? There has to be relief for hardship. And the hardship is in, come on guys, don't write because I don't want you to miss it. In and of the effect. Whereas harm is external. Okay? That's the difference between these things. Ad-dararu yuzal. Harm is to be removed. So this is really together. Harms have to be removed. Hardships are relieved of, eased up in some way soon. But harms have to be removed completely. Okay? Harms is, let's say, someone is stepping on your foot. That's not part and parcel of sitting down. You get my point? That's someone, yata'adda. They've done something, even if they didn't do it intentionally. Example, a person built a wall around their house, a privacy wall, a privacy fence. And then their wife and their daughters are outside, out their khimars hanging out, chilling, okay? The neighbor says, well, I like that my neighbor did. I'm going to build a second story on my house. What's going to happen? Can he build that wall?
No.
Why? Because that's going to bring harm to his neighbor, and his neighbor has already an existing right for privacy. Why? Because he built a privacy wall. So in order for him to build that second story, he has to build that fence higher. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that he can't see over it.
Or have no windows on that side.
Or have no windows. But the harm has to be removed.
And that's land use regulations.
Land use regulation, alhamdulillah. And we use it like this. We have a well. My well is here. Person A's well is here. You come anywhere over here and you bring a well, what's going to happen to my well? It's going to sink my water down. It might even muddy my water. So I'm saying, hold on, no, man. You better go on the other side of the hill. You better go on a different plane where it's not going to affect my well. Or we're going to throw dirt in your well when you go away. You know? No, but the point is, you can't do it. This is called conflict of interest, right? You know, just like, let's say a business, name a business. Anybody name a business? Exit. Exit, business exit sets up one here. Can someone else start another business exit right there, right next door to them? No, he can go on the other side of town or in another business area, but he can't be next door to my business. Okay? Now, if it's a different business, Nexit, then he can do that because it's different, because now there's competition. That's why Burger King and what do you call it, McDonald's and all the different car places are in a zoned area, right? I'm asking you. Right, so they're in that particular, but the same businesses aren't there. Okay? Because the harm has to be removed. Everybody follow me? Yeah. So it's not just, if these principles are life principles in every aspect of fiqh. That's why I said that these are the primary principles of and all other principles of fiqh, 300, all the rest of them come from these 5. All of them come from these 5. We're only on 3. We have 2 more. So the hardships and harms
have to be removed.
No, you have to say it with some definition here. So the hardships and harms
have to be removed,
relieved of or eased of
in some way soothed.
Okay, write it down, guys.
So Allah says, surely after difficulty, ease must.
Well, Allah doesn't say that. If you were to say that in Mauritania, they would call you a liar.
You know, I mean,
you have to say Allah says what could mean. Because, you know, really, you know, I remember there was a guy, we were in Mauritania, and a British guy, no, he was an American guy from California, but there were some British guys there. He said, Allah says this and that. And the Mauritanians were listening, and they said, what did he say? He said something about Allah? And he said Allah says, and he says, they said, Kahabt. They was like, what are you talking about? Allah didn't say that. You know? And the guy said, no, you know what I mean? It was like, they went to the Shaikh. The Shaikh said, no, you know, you can't say Allah said that. You know? Allah says what could mean. You know? It's just so, because we're talking law now. When we're dealing with law, we have to be very specific. Not that we're being jerks, but we want to be very specific. Because if it's a translation or interpretation, then we can argue about that. Does that make sense? Yeah. The word usage. And especially because here in the West, what have they done with the Bible? Interpreted and interpreted and interpreted and interpreted and interpreted. And they think it's the word of God, according to them. Right? Yep. They take those interpretations as literal.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And so much is lost because of that. When we studied the Bible, I studied the Bible in Hebrew, believe it or not. Do you know they have the word Jahannam in the Bible? In reference to Jahannam. They have the word Allahumma in the Bible. Okay? Isa in the Bible. Even they get Jesus from the word Isa. Literally, and you can see how they have done it when they transferred it over to Greek and once you follow the chain of custody. You know, because again, being poor students, not understanding how to apply an aim. Okay, you get my point? So, it's very important that we know what we're talking about. Very specifically. Because I was so surprised to see Allah in the Quran. Even they have Allah.
You mean the Quran or
no, the Bible. The Bible. Jazakallah khair for the correction. Okay? Okay? So, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin. And then when you say this, man, what are these guys talking about? How can they not see it? Say what you're going to say.
No, it says, what could be said that surely after difficulty,
there's ease. Al-usra, inna ma'al-usri yusra or yusura. Al-usra. Al-usra, some difficulty, some hard. But ma ja'ala Allahu fi deen min haraj. Allah hasn't put no hardship in the deen. Even some scholars said, you know, what do you mean there's no hardship in the deen? What about jihad? War, quote unquote. No. That is the easier of the two situations. Right? Because if you don't fight the physical battle, you get in the situation we are today. Where a physical battle wouldn't even finish it. You're not even in a position to protect your family, friends, and your way of life. It's just totally trampled. Does that make sense? Oppression. And Allah says oppression, what could mean? Oppression is worse than dying. Oppression is worse than the grave. Better to die for, that's not Allah, that's the last poets. Better to die for a noble cause than to live and die a slave. Okay? Rahimahullah. Rahimahullah. Okay. So, let's go because we're out of time. We leave up or ease up. In some ways, no, that's a different thing. The usr, every difficulty you go through in your life, okay, due to whatever you did, because it's the consequences, all good that comes to you from min Allah. And everything that comes, hardship that comes to you is the consequences of your own actions. And Allah wipes a lot. And even with every one you get a lot of good times, a lot of ease. It doesn't equate. No comparison to even the day you had bad, you had good times. You ate, you know what I'm saying? There's so many barakas, we couldn't even count them. And counting them is a barakah. You know? So, this is as we go through things. Everybody finished? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Not wise, but good.
I just ask a question. That's what I want to do.
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead, Miss.
Are these the same rules you gave us last Wednesday?
Yes, ma'am.
But they're just framed a little differently?
I made you, what I did is I made you study them the hard way, and then I made it easy for you. In order for you to appreciate the ease. Okay? I wanted to put it in your mind and for your mind to start working on it so that when we put it in the poem, and I figured you guys would know I put everything in the poem. Every one of these classes is put in the poem, these usul. But I want you to work with it first. Okay? So that you know, I believe that we've been given too much ease. And that has stopped us from appreciating what we have available. So by thinking about this, how to phrase this, how to remember it, now I put it in an easy way with idnillah, you know, now you can hold that and we can refer to it. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Sir, doctor.
There are two words in Arabic, and I don't understand the difference.
Yes, sir.
Shak
Shak
and raib.
Raib. Shak and raib are two different words. Shak is a doubt of your source. Of your facts. Shak is doubt of your facts. Does that make sense? Shak is a doubt of the facts. Raib is a doubt of the source. Distrust for the source. Okay? Not even doubt. Distrust for the source.
You used Trump.
I was going to use Trump again.
And it's a legitimate distrust.
It's a legitimate distrust. Nah, I don't know. It may not be it's not, because the one who is called a murtab, Allah tells that this is the person who's going to be sinful. Whoever has this raid for Allah, after Allah clarifies and shows his ayat, that's not allowed. But they have distrust of the source. Look, the kuffar have distrust for the Quran. They don't have a legitimate distrust for the Quran.
So in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says...
not just in Surah Al-Baqarah, in numerous places in the Quran it says, La rayba fi. Rayb. Rayb is distrust of the source. See, what the ayah it can be interpreted to mean is, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. This is the real book. Okay? The book you asked for. La rayba fi. Have no distrust that it is from Allah. Because that's what you wanted in the beginning in Surah Al-Fatiha, right? You want guidance, but you want it from Allah, from the real source, the truth. So, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. No doubt about this one, who it's from. فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. In it is guidance for those who are conscious, have taqwa. You don't have a pure heart. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
And the shak?
And shak is doubt of the fact. معلومات. أشك في معلوماتك. أنا لا أشك فيك نفسك. مفهوم؟ أنت صادق ولكن مخطئ. أخطأت. فهذا أشك بك. You understand?
Right.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, ma'am.
Shaikh, did you cover certainty, number 2?
Not yet. Doubt does not count.
Doubt does not count.
Because it is not pure.
Because it is not pure.
So it cannot remove what we know for sure.
So it cannot remove what we know for sure.
Doubt does not count.
Doubt does not count.
does not count because it is not pure.
Doubt does not count because it is not pure.
So it cannot remove.
Cannot remove
What we know for sure. And this is number 4. One more. We're going to stop. Doubt does not count. Period. Al-yaqinu la yazalu bi-shak. Right? Doubt does not count. Why not?
because it is not pure.
Meaning it's not 100%. Does everybody get that? It's not pure. It's not 100%. And since it's not 100%, it cannot, it does not have the ability to remove what we know for sure, what we know for 100.
Is that 4 over the doubt?
Yes, this is the 4 over the doubt. I just put the number 4 here so you know which one of the principles. There are 5 primary principles of fiqh. I want you to be able to see them here. Okay? Because I put in the middle haram and halal, and those are not part of the 5 principles. But it's a foundational rule that comes with this. Whenever we study this, they always put into the fact there, the scholars of the past always put into there the fact that the deen is mabniyun ala masalah, benefit, and fighting off, giving protection. So I'm explaining these 2 principles here, halal and haram, have to be understood. Okay? Halal represents 4 things. It represents those things that are wajib, those things that are mustahab, those things that are makruh, and those things that are mubah. And haram only represents 1 category, haram. Isn't that a lot?
Yes.
But we'll deal with that next week, doctor. Inshallah. Come on, guys, recite from the beginning.
Intentional size for the movement act. Allow them around with a positive effect. Around is harmful and the opposite of good. Corruption and destruction is never understood. So the hardships and harms have to be removed. Relieved or each other in some way soothed. Doubt does not count because it is not pure. So it cannot rule what we know for sure.
And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then a people's practice can always be applied. Al-'adatu muhakkama. And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then a people's practice can always be applied. Understand, that is a very important rule. All these rules, and unless we have proof, say it. And unless we have proof that it has to be denied.
So these are just in a little different order than what you gave them to us on the board.
That's
so
right. The order doesn't really bother.
I see it now.
Okay.
So the harm was, I think,
don't trip on that particular type of stuff. Okay.
I was trying to see what you.
Don't be rigid. I want you guys to be fluid. That's what jump around a little bit. And
Flex a little bit.
Flex, semper gumby, as they say in the Marine Corps, right? And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, please.
And unless we have that it has to be denied,
then a people's practice
must be applied.
Can always, doesn't must, can always be applied. This is the 5th rule. Why do we say can always be? Does it have to be applied?
No.
Not always. It doesn't have to be. But it can.
If they want to. Right?
If they want to, that's right. If the circumstances, but they want to do it a different way, there's nothing wrong with that.
So number 5 is the whole thing? Or
The whole 5 is the whole thing. Okay. And unless we have proof that it has to be denied, then a people's practice can always be applied. See, because in the English I can explain the hukum the principle better than just translating an English term. You get my, the Arabic term. Al-adat al-muhakkama has 2 words in Arabic. Okay? But in English it means this. Okay? That unless we have a proof that whatever that people is doing has to be denied, meaning it's wajib to be denied, then whatever their practices are can be applied. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Very important rule. Now, not wise.
When you use that
Principle.
as principle as an example, is that related to the culture?
Yes, of course. The culture is related to the ethnicity, things like that. But we have to look at it because there are some things that people do in their culture that may not be allowed or should not be allowed. So then we put a ruling on that. Okay? You guys don't have that poem yet. I was about to. Conscientious, the competent adult is the conscientious one. Aware of every ruling of whatever he wants done. Okay? That's different. That's next week.
So we can't just like Mr. T.
Right. For example, you can't dress like Mr. T.
Some people might not know Mr. T.
Oh, young people. They got a new Mr. T in the they did a movie now. They did a new A-Team and everything. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I saw the guy. I was like, that ain't Mr. T.
Rampage.
What's his name?
Rampage.
I don't know.
That's a different game. That's a different.
Yeah, some young guy. I don't. What is that? His name? Is it what you're saying? Oh, yeah. That's probably what he says. His name is Rampage. Rampage something? What? Jackson.
He's a fighter.
So yeah, he's not Mr. T though. Pity the fool.
Pity the fool.
With all the gold around his neck.
Oh yeah. He's really short.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made him look big for such a long time. 5'5". I don't know, but I just know that he's actually really short. He got sick, they said.
Yeah.
That's something happened. He was fighting cancer or something like that. Yeah, mashallah. May Allah be best. But everybody, these are the rules. If you memorize these principles, these primary principles of fiqh, we will use them to build on other principles. We will constantly refer to these in order to establish the maqasid of Sharia. Okay? That's why these come next. First, the objectives of the Sharia. My deen, my mind, my wealth, my honor, my lineage. How do we get there? By applying these principles here. Does that make sense? In order to come to the ruling, the 5 rulings plus 2. And we'll deal with that next. What I need you guys to do for your test, for your homework, is I need you to memorize this. That's all I need you to do. I need you to memorize it. Yes, ma'am. I see Miss Amatullah is not here. Please, ladies and guys, ladies, please call her and find out if she's okay and everything, and if she needs a ride or something like that. One thing I remember from going to church growing up, they always had a group of people who would visit those sick and shut-in. And I believe that that's another thing that we have lost, that we don't do. People disappear from the masjid and we never ever see them again. We never follow up on them and check on them. And that shows a lack of sincerity on our part to be part of a community, that we don't miss each other and do anything about it when we miss each other. So we need to make the committees back up and go and visit those people, make time to go visit them, and take our young people to do so as well. So they learn that tradition from us to go visit the people who established the deen in their community. May Allah make it easy. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
If you've already memorized the rules you gave last week, do we have to forget them and memorize these?
No, you add to it. See, what you're doing is I'm running tracks to your memory. Okay? See, this may seem difficult. It may even be difficult. But I've been reading you guys' biographies. There's nobody here is ignorant. There's a lot of very intelligent people here. And you all have done so many different things in your lives that you know what it takes to accomplish goals. Okay?
I'm not saying it's difficult. I'm just saying,
okay.
Do you want us to give it back to you this way like it is on the board?
That's right. Yes, ma'am. To answer your question, I want you to memorize this and recite it. And like they said, you got to know it like a poet. Okay? I want you to know it. But then when you articulate it, you see, this is for your recall. Poetry is easy to recall. And then you are going to articulate it. Okay? I don't want you just to be a parakeet. That's just part of it. But afterwards, we're going to articulate what that means and how we apply those. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Ms. Parker. Not wise.
Not wise.
So I can pick on you. I can't get on that. Big sisters.
You made a statement regarding the shut-in and practices of
Church.
the church.
Yes, the sick and shut in. That's what we call it.
Practices can be applied. How do we, in this country, make a shift in how our masajid are run in a way that is reflective of the needs of the people here?
Okay.
Having lived overseas, and we have a lot of brothers and sisters who come from overseas, and they do things differently there. And so, as indigenous people here, they don't understand the customs, and so they sometimes deny the customs and not understanding the needs of the functioning of the masjid versus how it's run and functioning in their own country.
Alhamdulillah, barakallahu fikum. The way we do that, first and foremost, are you free?
Yes.
Okay, then you don't need anybody's permission. You guys understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Number two, the people who come from different countries operate in like qabilas, in tribes. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is the way it initially and should be. So then what we have to do, we have to operate in that same way. And there's nothing stopping. What we have to do is not change anybody else, but change ourselves. Okay? And everybody here pretty much grew up in the church or has been exposed to church. I don't know some of the younger people, but those of us who are older, we remember the church. Okay? I accepted Islam when I was 12, but before that, we were at church. You get my point? And my parents are still at church. So we know how that structure operates. What we need to do is what the Prophet ﷺ said. When your leaders become your youth, then look for the hour. Okay? Because their knowledge is supposed to be taken from the elders. That's when it's safe. When it starts becoming from the youth, and they're going to mix it up and they're going to start disrespecting their elders. We've seen that happen with this whole super Salafi thing, for the last 15 years, where people misunderstood how to apply some good ideas, okay? And some good concepts, but they made it wrong. So we have to take back the onus that's upon us. Does that make sense? And be responsible. What we need to do from the ladies and the men is to organize to say, okay, we're going to go and visit. We could go to the masjid's not going to stop you from knowing who are the members there and who we haven't seen, and they'll help you. And even though brothers have been coming from overseas, they've been over here 20 years now. Some of them, they're American, and their children are mutant turtles. You know what I'm saying? They're from over there and and we have to start recognizing that our background is similar to their first generation children, as our parents come off the farm, okay, and did whatever they could do to get us to education. A lot of us are the first people in our families to go to college. Does that make sense? Yes. And especially in North Carolina, because you had so many black colleges, this was the place to go, especially Durham. This was the Black Wall Street. Okay? This was the place. Still one of the only places in the country we got black banks, black insurance companies from here. So we don't have to do anything but do what everybody else is doing, organize amongst ourselves and with those people too, and go and visit everybody and become an example of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense, everybody? Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I have a slightly different question.
Sure.
Oftentimes, many of us sit on boards of corporations, and we have the opportunity to make changes on corporate governance. My question is, are there any ruling in
Alhamdulillah. And that's what we have to do. Okay? First of all, we have to realize, we have to learn the Robert's rules of order. Not only that, then we have to go back and look at the Islamic order prior to World War I. Okay? Because that's when everything started to become down. When we look at the Ottoman Empire and the rules and how they held court and meetings and stuff like that, you will find that most of what the West has established post-1909, okay, around that time, then that was based on what the Islamic Empire had. There was no United Nations, but the Ottoman Empire was a United Nations. There was no universal monetary code, but the Ottoman Empire had one money. You get my point? So they undid the Islamic organization in Asia and destroyed it and came up with one that was filled with kufr. So the same way, we can do the same thing, being here by learning our laws, right? And how to apply them. And like we just would go on some of those things, and he was mentioning these are rules of how you do, what you call it? Land use law. Land use laws, the conflict of interest, seeing where the Islamic laws are and how they can be applied for our best interests. And then when you're in position, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, you fear Allah at the fullest extent that you can. You do what you can do. You get my point? In that regard. And we have to, and this is what our point is here, is to become those intellectuals. Like the Young Turks destroyed the Islamic Empire from the inside. The Muslims can build and establish an Islamic environment in the land of the kuffar if we use our intellect and our Islam. Does that make sense? But one can't go without the other. And that's why I made mention today that the seniors are the ones where the knowledge is supposed to come from. And this is the stance of the Salaf. They said you're going to see a lot of disrespect when the seniors stop studying, stop taking the lead in these particular things. Why? Because they have experience, life experience. Then when they learn the hadith, when they learn the tafseer, they can now apply that with all their worldly experience as well. And some of the younger people don't know what it takes to establish and to keep established. And that's why what we have seen is a lot of breakup. As one person said, I've never seen the revolutionary build what he can destroy. Does that make sense? Okay.
It comes from the destruction.
Sorry?
The whole society is destruction because that's where it comes from.
Mashallah.
It comes from the home.
Yes, it does.
That's what's up.
When we're talking about knowledge, I feel like sometimes when you ask for our biographies, I feel like there's this constant compartmentalization of knowledge and not seeing how the secular as well as our religious merge.
That's why I asked you for it, because I particularly asked for your biographies so that I can articulate to you at the extent of your intellects. Does that make sense? And I'm very impressed with what I've seen so far and the different experiences that you all have. I've been reading them. I know you went and worked overseas and these things like that. And the studies that people have gone through. We have scientists in here. We have board members in here. We have bankers in here. We have so many different people who are done. We could have a whole corporation. The only thing we don't have is an excuse. Okay, seriously. You know, that's the only thing we don't have. You know? And so we have to stop feeling sorry for ourselves. And if you want, you know, this thing of compartmentalizing knowledge, this again started at the end of World War II. Prior to colonization and the breakdown of the Muslim empire, there was no such thing of separation aqidah from Sharia. You get my point? Yes. We call it ilm and amal. There was no such thing. If your statement of iman didn't factualize with the apparent, then you were a kafir. You get me? We judged you on the apparent. So what was happened after colonization, they want to make us nominal Muslims. So yeah, you can stay Muslim, but you're going to practice the colonial law. You get myself? And the colonial law is their Sharia. And the Sharia trains you to act and behave like a kafir. And so we have to break, and so we're told, oh, you're free, but in practice you're not. Because once the only reason they stop putting you in chains is when you start thinking like them. Right? Okay, so then what we have to do is read that book. That Dr. Jawanza, I forget his name, but he wrote the countering the conspiracy to destroy the black boys. Is a particular book. Yeah, Jawanza, I forget his name, Kunjufu. He wrote a 4-part series.
Yeah.
It's an excellent study.
Back in the 70s.
I read it when I was in junior high school. You know? And it's still relevant today.
Exactly.
Okay? I'm surprised so many people haven't read it.
I have. Well, how?
Jawanza Kunjufu. I still have mine.
He's a track star out of Chicago. That's where he was originally.
Is he from there? I never knew where he was from. But I knew he was from Chicago, but I thought he was from the nation. But anyway, it's an excellent explanation of how to use your secular education for you. You get my point? Because we have so many PhD monkeys. Okay? Well-trained individuals, but not well-educated people. And so we have to, like you said, not say there is no such thing as secular education. You get my point? The Muslims established that the Quran is a science book. Everything that you can do in the dunya, Allah has laid it down in the Quran and in the Sunnah. هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. This is, we call this your scientific rolling right. To treat creation how you like. First understand, then control, then use it for your worldly goal. Yes, I wrote a poem on science. Okay? Why? Because we can't trust them. You know? And so when we started to educate our children, we started to notice that everything we study is a battlefield of wars fought between the Muslims and the disbelieving hordes. Religion, science, religion, culture, times and place have been destroyed with little trace. Even in the science books, we're fighting battles. Take a look. No Timbuktu, no Andalus, no Indo-Asian contributes, or scientists or European, and nothing's mentioned from the deen. So Abu Taubah wrote this time a world-inclusive science rhyme. And so we wrote and we put down the 4 sciences, the basics, because we cannot accept anything from them. They've dummied down science. Physics is actually a religion. You know, when you get into it. You get the point? So we have to now reevaluate that on our own and what Allah says in the Quran. And then when we start studying that, we'll realize that everything, look at Andalusia, they still don't have, mostly all the medical tools were invented in Andalusia that they're using today. You get my point? The number 0, if they didn't have the Desi people, they wouldn't have 0. You get my point? So and because of their racism, they call the Arabic numerals, which is not true. It's not the Arabic numerals. If anything, you want to call it the Indian numerals or the Desi numerals. They're the ones that came up with it. But because of their racism, they even misnamed things. So we have to do a reevaluation of what we call knowledge. And the problem is that I haven't been able to organize enough people to do it. Those people who have the standard of knowledge to address those issues. Why? Because those people sometimes don't know these principles. So that's why we start here, because once you know this, then you can apply it everywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Why does this feel so empowering?
It is empowering. That's the whole purpose of it.
I mean, it's good. For us as
I gotta get out of here, guys.
You understand? My point is that I feel so empowered by this is that we're still.
We never had this before, okay? We never had this before. That's why we gotta keep it.
Where's my homework? Give my homework. Come on. Let me get my homework.
You want the folders? Or?
I don't want no folder. I want my homework, please. No, I'm not collecting the folder. I want my papers. You put your stuff that I'm handing back to you guys in the folders. Somebody please.
Oh, let me see that. I need to put my name on both of them.
Listen, you got to put your name on your papers, man.
On both of them. Put on both of them,
I gave you guys the test.
The teacher's progress.
Yeah, a progress report.
Teacher's progress report.
Of course. I mean, No, you don't have to. It's cool. I get your point. Nah, it don't have to be.
That was supposed to be.
I was going to go back there.
No, you wanted to, no, not that one. This one, teacher's progress.
I'm not going to.
It was it was Wednesday, last Wednesday.
Yeah, if you want to, you don't want to, you don't have to, but I want to give it back to you,
You know, but I sent you. I don't know what you, but you should have. Look,